Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurumitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vande Aham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamlam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतम सावधूतम परिजन सहितम कृष्ण चैतन्य देवम श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितम हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विश्वानुसुत देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्री वसादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा thank you all for coming. So we will continue our discussion on Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, verse 8 onwards. So today we'll cover verses 8 to 12. And these 5 verses are stacked together. These are the only set of 5 verses in Bhagavad Gita that are stacked together. So this is section 3, verses 8 to 12. Title is Jnana, the process of knowledge. And here Krishna answers Arjuna's 5th question. So chapter 13 started with Arjuna asking 6 questions. Prakriti Purusha, Kshetra Kshetragya, Jnana Geyam. So we previously discussed Kshetra and Kshetragya in verses 2 to 7. And Jnana means knowledge. The process of knowledge is the answer to Arjuna's 5th question, which get answered here in 8 to 12. So let's read. We got only one will be able to read because this is the only set of verses we'll cover. It's quite a long list of qualities that we have to develop. Pratyush Prabhu, are you able to read 8 to 12 translation?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yes. 8 to 12. Humility, pridefulness, non-violence, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self realization and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance. Hare Krishna.
So these are the 20 items of knowledge described in chapter 13, verses 8 to 12. These are the qualities that we have to develop on the path of spirituality. Now, technical knowledge that we may have to work in the material world, yes, it is important, but that material world technical knowledge alone is not important, because the material world knowledge or technical knowledge has nothing to do with the character of a person. Any technical knowledge or any knowledge or education in the material world is geared towards how I earn money and how I maintain my body. This material world knowledge and material world education, yes, it is important to keep body and soul together, but it is not all important. Material world knowledge is only partial knowledge of the total knowledge. Therefore, Krishna says these 20 qualities described in chapter 13, 8 to 12, these are knowledge. Everything else is ignorance. So knowledge to maintain body is ignorance because this knowledge keeps you in bodily concept of life. So any material world knowledge, which is largely geared to maintaining the body, keeps you bound in the material world because we are focused on how to enjoy the body. In Sri Upanishad, mantras number 9 to 11, we'll discuss that this spiritual knowledge is real knowledge. And material world knowledge as well as material world ignorance is combined as ignorance. Because whether you are enjoying in the material world in ignorance or you are enjoying the material world in knowledge, either way it is ignorance because it is bodily concept of life. So a person may be a good engineer or whatever field you want to look at, but that has no reflection on the character of a person because the engineering education or any education in the material world does not contain anything about the character development. The point is that much of the education does not focus on character development. There may be some discussion about character, but not a lot. The education system in the material world is primarily focused on body and to earn money and to enjoy money. But the purpose of education is not just to earn a living, but it should also be to develop a character. Therefore, these 20 qualities described in chapter 13, verses 8 to 12, are the qualities that we need to develop. Now, our today's discussion is very practical discussion and little heavy discussion as well. Now, first question becomes, before we get into these individual qualities, first question becomes how to develop these qualities. So Nectar of Instruction, text number 3, gives 6 items that are favorable for bhakti. One of them is Satovrite. Satovrite means that you observe and you follow spiritual masters and elevated pure devotees, and then you imbibe those qualities that the spiritual master is displaying. You imbibe those qualities in you. Now, visualize any spiritual master class that you might have attended or you may attend in future. you visualize, you'll see examples of spiritual master demonstrating these qualities, one or more qualities, um, while they are engaged in Krishna's service. So some example that spiritual master is detached, is humble, is engaged in Krishna consciousness. So from this point on, at least, if you have not already noticed, at least from this point on, when you attend any spiritual master class, either live, in person, or virtually, or if you listen to any class recording of a spiritual master, observe these qualities. Or even when you listen to Srila Prabhupada lecture that I post every week, observe these qualities that Srila Prabhupada is also showing, demonstrating these qualities. Anybody has noticed, would like to share any lecture that you have attended and any important qualities that you have observed or while you are listening to Prabhupada lecture? So on a go forward basis, try to observe these qualities. You'll be surprised that spiritual masters demonstrate these qualities because they live according to scriptures. And you will also notice in Prabhupada lectures also that you should be listening every week that I post. Now, for Prabhupada lecture at least, you should have heard one or more Prabhupada lecture. Can you tell me what comes to mind when you listen to Prabhupada lecture? Somebody? Somebody? Sumniva?
Krishna Prabhuji, it's generally a mixture of a lot of things, but something that stands a lot for me is the sense of renunciation strongly comes from Prabhupada's lecture.
Okay, so Sanskrit verses, okay. Very good. What else? Somebody?
No, Prabhuji, I said sense of renunciation.
Okay, renunciation. Yeah, sorry, I heard pronunciation. Okay, yeah, very good. Yeah, you are correct. Renunciation is also correct. Yeah, follow me.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, one thing I remember he had mentioned in one of the lectures, it stuck to me, is that he said that I am still with my family now, and you are my family,
Yeah.
not just the children who I was born to. I'm happy here because you belong to Krishna, I belong to Krishna. So he's attached to Krishna and detached from the material family. That was something that came across then.
Yeah. So detachment. Yeah, very good. Path Prabhu.
Prabhuji, actually, I noticed he is having huge amount of knowledge and ready to answer all the queries.
Yeah. And how does Prabhupada answer questions?
It's a very simple, with simple illustration and narrations. So it's very understandable.
Yeah,
That's what
very
I
good.
had
Yeah, yeah, very good. Mansi, Monarch.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So, whenever I hear the lecture of Srila Prabhupada, I notice that he's very firm in Krishna consciousness and he's very confident about what he speaks.
Yeah, very good. So, besides all of this, have you noticed Prabhupada always quotes a lot of verses in his lectures? Somebody?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Right, so we'll soon discuss this in chapter 17. It's 17.15. The verse is known as austerity of speech. So austerity of speech means not silence. Rather, when you talk Krishna Katha, that is austerity of speech. So Srila Prabhupada is talking, but he's talking Bhagavad Gita verses and Bhagavatam verses. And on Krishna Katha, this is austerity of speech. And what Path Prabhu also mentioned about difficult questions, not just easy questions. Sometimes there are difficult questions, but Srila Prabhupada is tolerating and answering in very easy to understand language. So we did discuss one of the quality as tolerance, right? So from this point on, I request all of you to observe any spiritual master classes that you are attending, as well as Srila Prabhupada lectures that you are supposed to listen every week. Observe all these qualities that we are discussing, and the spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada also, they will demonstrate one or more qualities uh, during the lectures. So let's start discussing these qualities one at a time. So first quality is amanitvam, humility. And the second quality is pridelessness. Now, what is the difference between humility and pridelessness? That humility means not being proud even when you have a reason to be proud. And pride means to be proud when I don't have a reason to be proud. Now, you notice this very, very much in the material world on a day-to-day basis also. So generally, people want to look great, big. Oh, I am this, oh, I am that. Because they are in bodily consciousness. But when they try to artificially show themselves big, they end up looking small. Now, this boosting their own self when one is not capable actually leads to misery, because they are setting themselves up for something they are not capable of. Because when people think and say a lot of themselves, oh, I am this, oh, I am that, then the result of these thoughts and these actions is that these people end up becoming miserable, because they become dependent. They become afflicted by the terrible sense of inadequacy and insecurity, because they are always dependent on others' praise, others' recognition and glorification, and without which they have no shelter and no security. Therefore, the first thing Krishna says as part of knowledge is humility. Because on the path of spirituality, humility is a very important starting point. In one of the Upanishads, it says, one who thinks he knows, he does not know. And one who knows he does not know, actually he knows. Why? Because Krishna has already described that the individual Kshetrajna does not even know his own body. So how can somebody say, I know? Let's read purport paragraph number 2. Ritu will read paragraph number 2, which starts, as for knowledge outlined here.
Hare Krishna. As for the knowledge outlined here, the items may be analyzed as follows. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. The material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others. But from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge, who knows that he is not this body, anything, honor or dishonor, pertaining to this body is useless. One should not be hankering after this material deception. People are very anxious to be famous for their religion, and consequently, sometimes it is found that without understanding the principles of religion, one enters into some group which is not actually following religious principles and then wants to advertise himself as a religious mentor. As for actual advancement in spiritual science, one should have a test to see how far he is progressing. He can judge by these items.
So Prabhupada's explanation of each of these terms are classic. Prabhupada says, humility means one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. Now, what is the meaning of this? There is a classic definition. So understand that it is not that a devotee should not be honored by others. No, that is not correct. Devotee should be honored. So when we practice devotional service, we do get honor. Example, people offer obeisances. So devotee accepts respects, means devotee takes the respect, but devotee does not expect respect. So what is the difference between accept and expect? Means accept is to take and expect is to be anxious for. So accept or to take respect means that we understand that this is part of Vaishnava etiquette, and it is a way of reciprocating of affection and the proper conduct among devotees. Therefore, it is not that we don't tell others that don't offer obeisances. No, we do offer obeisances to spiritual master and senior devotees. So the devotee who is being offered obeisances, he will accept that respect. He will take that respect. But that devotee is not anxious to expect that somebody is going to respect me. Expecting respect means that we don't demand respect from others. Meaning devotee is not anxious to get respect. So wherever a devotee goes, devotee is not concerned whether devotee will get properly respected or not. No, devotee is not concerned about getting respect. Rather, devotee is concerned how best I can serve Krishna, whatever be the situation. And this will result in spiritual advancement. Now, everybody interact with me and have undivided attention on the very first practical point. that don't you all always praise spiritual master or whosoever is giving the class? Yes, no? Don't you always praise?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Now look at the other way around. What happens when somebody praises you? Everybody, please interact with me. This is very important to understand. This 8 to 12, chapter 13 verses are very practical. These are the qualities we have to develop. So everybody, please interact. What happens when somebody praises you?
We are feeling satisfied.
Okay, satisfied. Paulomi says, I am inflated. Very good.
We feel validated to some extent.
Okay. Okay.
Happy, Babaji,
Flattered.
happy and proud.
Okay, proud. Who said flattered? Somebody said flattered.
Yeah, at times flattery.
Okay. Rest of you? Yeah, I feel happy. Yeah, I am inflated. Hey, look who I am. Yeah. Rest of you who have not answered, what happens when somebody praises you? Nancy, Mona.
I feel important, Prabhuji.
Hmm.
No feeling proud.
Okay, proud, important, very good. Sumnima?
Yeah, the ego is feeling.
Ego, very good. Sumnima?
No, Prabhuji, I said I feel important.
Okay. So you are all correct that we get puffed up. You said the same point in different words. That when somebody praises me, I get puffed up. Now, when we praise spiritual master all the time, or whosoever is giving a lecture, how is spiritual master not getting puffed up? Or the other way to look at this question is, how is spiritual master protecting himself from getting puffed up? That how is spiritual master demonstrating humility? So I want all of you to observe this next time you go to listen to a spiritual master lecture, and you will notice. So today Abhishek Prabhu is not here. He met my spiritual master recently in Vrindavan, and he could have given the practical example, but hopefully next time when he's there he will explain. But I want all of you to observe that when you praise a spiritual master, how is spiritual master not getting puffed up, or how is spiritual master protecting himself from getting puffed up, or how is spiritual master demonstrating humility? Anybody has noticed this? Anybody wants to answer? Sumnima?
Prabhuji, I've noticed they usually transfer it to their spiritual master.
Okay, very
They
good. Yeah,
glorify their spiritual
yeah,
master.
very good. So that is one way. Very good. What else? Anybody wants to try? Path Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. A few days back, I visited Mayapur,
Yeah.
ISKCON Mayapur.
Mhm.
So I met one spiritual master. So we had a discussion over 30 minutes.
Mhm.
And during the entire talk, he talked about so many good things. And I have noticed his the way of life, how he is leading.
Yeah.
And he was so simple, and he is having so much knowledge, but he is not expressing his prideness.
Very good.
So,
So simplicity and positive, or looking at good points. Hold your thought. This is a discussion we'll be having in these verses as well. So very good. Thank you for sharing that he has so much knowledge and still He's not showing his pipe. Very good. Prabhu, what's the name of the spiritual master? Do you know?
Just now, I'm not in a position to remind
That's
him.
okay. That's all.
But
That's okay. No worries. Yeah. So very good point. What Path Prabhu explained from his experience, and we'll discuss all these right now. And Priyadarshini is also correctly saying that they don't think themselves as the doer. Everything happens by Krishna's grace. So here's the practical discussion for you all to observe next time you attend a class of a spiritual master. So we say that we get puffed up when someone praises me. So how is spiritual master not getting puffed up, or how is spiritual master protecting himself, and how is spiritual master demonstrating humility? The answer is spiritual master passes the glorification to his spiritual master. So you'll notice generally many of the spiritual masters are Srila Prabhupada's disciples. I mean, there are others also. So a spiritual master who are disciples of other spiritual masters. But take, for example, the disciples of Srila Prabhupada as an example for us to discuss. So when you praise a spiritual master who is disciple of Srila Prabhupada, he will say, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I am able to speak only because of my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. So he is not taking the glorification for himself. He is passing on the glorification to his spiritual master, as well as to Krishna also. That I am able to speak because of Srila Prabhupada, because of Shri Radha Krishna's mercy. Now, the other point, important point, before I explain this important point, is we have discussed this in the offenses to avoid class, that when you do an offense to somebody, so that when you say sorry to this person, so just that your sorry is not a lip service, but you actually mean that you are sorry. So what's the solution we have discussed in the offenses to avoid class? Anybody remembers?
Prabhuji, say sorry and do some service. Ask for service.
Yeah, very good. So do offer obeisances and ask for forgiveness and ask for some menial service. Very good. So for when you glorify spiritual master, so I explained about spiritual master passing it on to his spiritual master and to Shri Radha Krishna. Plus observe or recall that what spiritual master does when you praise a spiritual master. Normally, a spiritual master will respond, how can I serve you? But we already discussed that saying sorry for the sake of sorry, can this also not be just lip service from a spiritual master saying, oh, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and how can I serve you? Is this not just lip service? So we discussed that when you do offenses, that your sorry is not just lip service. You ask for some menial service. So how is spiritual master not just doing lip service? What the spiritual master say, and you would recall or you can notice on a go forward basis that when you ask a question to a spiritual master, generally you also glorify at that time also. So the spiritual master will pass on the praise to Srila Prabhupada or his spiritual master and to Shri Shri Radha Krishna. Plus, he will look for a good quality in you and praise your good quality. By this, looking at your good quality and praising your good quality, the spiritual master is saying that actually, I don't have the good quality that you are having. And by this, the spiritual master is saying that I am actually lower than you because I don't have the good quality that you are demonstrating. This is the height of humility. Now, this will happen provided the spiritual master knows that devotee a little bit, or if a new devotee, means somebody in the audience, asks a question. Now, the spiritual master does not know this devotee at all. So, how can the spiritual master glorify his Christ? He's meeting him for the first time. So, in that circumstances, the spiritual master would generally glorify the question that, yeah, that's a very good question you have asked. You definitely have some knowledge. You are definitely elevated that you are able to ask this elevated question. So these are the ways the spiritual master is protecting himself from getting puffed up as well as demonstrating humility. Now, all this is Satovrite. Means from this point on, you all observe the spiritual master as well as Srila Prabhupada while you're listening to lecture, if you are not already doing this. This is Satovrate, means devotee association as well as serving devotees. So somebody can give a philosophical answer, but I want you to practice this so that you can also come to the same level that any spiritual masters are. And you are also able to develop these qualities. So start observing spiritual masters as well as Srila Prabhupada, and you will notice that they are demonstrating all these qualities that we are about to discuss in these verses. So the action item for you all from this point on, not one time, continuously. Action item is to observe these qualities described in chapter 13, 8 to 12 in a spiritual master or Srila Prabhupada or whosoever is elevated devotee giving a class. I will pause here for any questions, comments, realizations. Silence.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, I have one question.
Yeah.
Whenever I used to do some spiritual endeavor, so you immediately react with a good adjectives,
Correct.
and that's I feel glorified.
Yeah, exactly.
So now onwards, how to react on this issue? That's my
very
question.
Good. Yeah, very good. Very good inquiry. This is very good. That when somebody is glorifying you, you glorify it back to the spiritual master that it is only because of your mercy. It is only because of your super excellent class that I am able to think on those lines. Right? You pass it back to spiritual master or whoever is giving the class. Path Prabhu and everybody.
Yes.
Right? So you have to be very conscious. From this point on, you have to be very, very conscious, because normally as soon as somebody glorifies me, I am puffed up. Yeah, look, I am sitting on top of Mount Everest. Hare Papa, where is your humility? So you become very, very conscious that what Path Prabhu said is very correct, that somebody is telling me that thank you for this question, you are elevated, you have this good quality. That is a glorification for me. So how do I not get puffed up is you pass it back on. Or if you have a living spiritual master, you can of course pass it back to your living spiritual master as well. Of course, you till the time you don't have living spiritual master, by all means you can pass it on to Srila Prabhupada as well as Shri Shri Radha Krishna. Everybody on the same page?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Very good. Now, I've explained this many times that when we go for doing services, so we don't do service with devotees just for the sake of doing an activity. No. Similarly, we do not read Bhagavad Gita for the sake of reading. Rather, we practice so that we can purify ourselves. So while doing services also, many devotees do services with me here at the Toronto Temple, and many of you do services at your respective centers. So we always look at elevated devotees. Say, for example, I've many times pointed out, for those in Toronto, I've many times pointed out about Dwarkanath Prabhu, our dear Dwarkanath, that he demonstrates so many good qualities, right? So we correlate that with scriptures and we try to follow what he is demonstrating. So this is Sato Vritti. So service is not a mechanical task. No, service is very important. Therefore, I have said so many times that do services with like-minded devotees. Otherwise, you end up doing prajalpa. Those who do services at the Toronto Temple, have you noticed this? Questions, comments, realizations on this point? Many of you are present here, those who do services with me at the Toronto Temple. Okay, Paulomi says yes. Rest of you? Okay, Ritu also, yes, thank you. So, another important point is the last sentence in paragraph number 2 that we read. Raksha will read. Okay, Abhishek Prabhu has joined. Let's first ask his experience about meeting my spiritual master. Abhishek Prabhu, are you able to unmute?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Very good. So we were just discussing about the initial qualities to observe in a spiritual master. And so you recently met my spiritual master in Vrindavan. So I request if you can please share what was that conversation you had with my spiritual master for the benefit of all.
Prabhuji. Like the first thing which I noticed was, because you also mentioned this point that uh, uh, he is always, they're always engaged in Krishna consciousness. If there is even a little gap, like the class was being set up, so he started chanting, and he also it's not just he was chanting, he also engaged other devotees in
Okay,
chanting.
very good, very good. So always engage in Krishna consciousness. So we read in chapter 13, verse 8 to 12, one of the point that he is always engaging service, not just him, others also. Very good. So also notice what Abhishek Prabhu is doing. Abhishek Prabhu is also observing all of this. So very good. Continue, Abhishek Prabhu.
And like I also noticed that um, when he is around, like the like people want to do something for him and do something in Krishna consciousness.
Okay, very good.
So
Yeah.
it's like his presence, uh, it just by his physical presence, it encourages people to be
Okay,
uh,
very good.
more devotional.
Very good. So what happened when you personally spoke to my spiritual master one on one? What conversation happened and what happened there?
So like I asked one day after the class, I asked Maharaj that if he can tell me something about a spiritual life, some aspect which I have missed. So first he mentioned that because he doesn't know me, he can't
Okay,
speak
very
in very
good.
detail.
Very good. So what happened here? I already described this point. So Abhishek Prabhu is meeting my spiritual master for the first time, and my spiritual master responded, I don't really know you per se, right? And that's a fact. So I already described, right? So this is how you have to observe. But still, my spiritual master did give some instruction to Abhishek Prabhu. So continue, Abhishek Prabhu.
Then he asked that how many rounds I'm chanting. So when I told that I'm chanting 16 rounds, he was very happy. Uh, and he focused on chanting and hearing. So he then he asked me if you are hearing classes regularly, hearing classes daily. Like, are you able to follow this or not? So so I mentioned that I am. So he was like he was very happy that I am chanting and hearing. Then he said next point which he mentioned was then uh, uh, find a spiritual master and get initiated.
Very good. So my spiritual master glorified Abhishek Prabhu that very good that you are hearing and chanting, right? And then gave the instruction that find a spiritual master and get initiated so that you can fast track your your spiritual life. Very good. Thank you, Abhishek Prabhu. So everybody notice what I described that actually happened with Abhishek Prabhu. Yes, no, everybody?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Very good. Okay, so let's discuss this other point. This is also very important, very heavy, and a really, really important point that we all will go through. So Raksha will read. So in the second paragraph that Ritu just read, the paragraph which starts as for knowledge outlined here, that paragraph, the last line in paragraph number 2, which says as for actual advancement, Raksha, just that one line.
As for actual advancement in spiritual science, one should have a test to see how far he is progressing. He can judge by these items.
Srila Prabhupada says for actual advancement in spiritual life, one should have a test to see how far he is progressing, and you can judge your spiritual advancement by these qualities, these 20 items in chapter 13, verse 8 to 12. So first by observing spiritual master, and then by practicing or observing your own self while practicing devotional services. And this way, we also make sure that we are developing these qualities. So take a material world practical example that a patient is following the prescription, the medication given to him so as to get cured. But he has to observe whether he is improving. So say the doctor gives medication for 7 days. So on day 1 may not be an immediate change, but say from day 2, depending on the disease, depending on the medication, from day 2, there should be some improvement starting to happen. If the improvement is not happening, then the patient has to go back to the doctor and say, well, there seems to be some other complication because this medication is not doing anything. So this is exactly what we also have to do. That is my disease getting lower? What is the disease I'm talking about? Is my bodily concept disease getting lower? And secondly, am I developing these qualities described in Bhagavad Gita? So we have to observe. Now, about this test, have undivided attention. This test is mandatory for all of you. Maya Devi is going to conduct this test. If you are not already in a test, be prepared to get this test. So my purpose of this discussion about test is not to scare you. Rather, my purpose is to prepare you for this test, because this test is not optional. This test is mandatory. Multiple devotees across all batches have gone through this test, and there are few devotees present among us right now who are also who have also gone through this test, and some are right now also in this test. So here's a question for you all. When do you build a dam on a river? So you know that a river will overflow. So when do you build a dam on a river? Everybody, please answer.
When the water is low.
When the water is what?
Low.
Low. Okay. Okay. Very good. So Sumnima says before it starts overflowing. Okay. Shruti?
I'm thinking.
Yeah. Okay. Rest of you? Shreyanshi?
After you have seen a flood happening.
Okay. So afterwards, all right. So we have a different answer. Ritu?
To control the water flow.
Yeah. My question is when? When do you build a dam?
Prevent floods from happening in the future.
Those who have not answered, when do you build a dam, Priyadarshini?
When the force of water is low and before it overflows.
Okay, before it overflows. Okay, very good. Mansi, Monarch.
From the very first day when the river is like flowing or whatever
Okay.
the chances of getting it overflowing.
Okay, so before, yeah, to prevent floods. Okay, many in the chat are also saying similar point. Okay, Path Prabhu, Shruti, you wanna say something?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, theoretically it should be done before the flood take place.
Yeah.
But in most of the cases, it is happened afterwards.
Yeah.
But
so,
my planning is to be do it before the flood take place.
Okay, very good. Shruti?
Um, when we sense that there might be like a flood or heavy rain prediction
Very good.
based
Very
on
good.
prediction.
Yeah. So again, you are saying before the flood actually happens.
Yeah.
Very
Yes.
good. So everybody almost answered similarly, except for Shreyanshi. So if you know that the river will overflow, therefore build a dam before the river overflows. Similarly, now you already know that there is going to be a test by Maya Devi. Therefore, prepare yourself. I will explain what this test will be. I can only give you some guidance. I cannot tell you exactly what the test will be. So again, I am not scaring you. Rather, I am preparing you for this mandatory test by Maya Devi. This is not optional. I am preparing you just as you build a dam before the river starts overflowing. So an action item for this discussion is that you find a buddy for yourself. So Vaishnav should find a Vaishnav buddy and Vaishnavis should find a Vaishnavi buddy, because when you will be in this Maya's test, you will not recognize that you are in Maya's test. This buddy has to recognize for you. So there are actions for the buddy to do for you, and then there are actions for you to listen to the buddy. But what you will do, I will describe what historically what devotees have done. So I will explain both sides, that what you are supposed to do versus what other devotees from our batches have done, so that you don't do that same mistake. So Maya Devi is Durga Devi. Maya Devi is in charge of material world. Maya Devi, Durga Devi is in charge of keeping all souls in the material world till you get purified. Shruti?
Okay. Okay. Got it.
So this Maya Devi's test will generally happen with a misery. Misery generally happens when some other person does something wrong to me, meaning the other person is just an instrument to manifest my own bad karma. So when misery happens, and if you want to become angry, then become angry on your own mind and senses, because you have done something wrong in the past, because of which the other person is just acting as an instrument to manifest your bad karma. So by becoming angry on your own mind and senses, so that at least on a go forward basis, you will not do anything wrong, so that there is no bad karma, hence there is no bad reaction. The other person is acting as an instrument. The other person is acting under Mahamaya. And if I also respond harshly to this other person, then I am also acting under Mahamaya. Then what is the difference between the other person and me? I am studying scriptures, so I am not supposed to act under Mahamaya. Rather, I am supposed to act under Yog Maya, which is spiritual energy. But if I am also acting like the other person, say I become angry at this other person, or I snap back at this other person, then what's the difference between this other person and you? Well, actually, you are worse than the other person. The other person has not read scriptures, so he's not really expected to act according to scriptures. But you have read scriptures. So you are supposed to act according to scriptures and practice these qualities. So instead of acting under Mahamaya, I have to act under Yog Maya. That recognize that the misery is given to me as a test for my spiritual advancement. So under normal circumstances, it will feel that, yeah, I am having my anger under control. I am able to tolerate. But when provocation happens, grab that provocation opportunity with open arms to test whether you are able to tolerate, whether your anger is in control, whether you are able to forgive the other person, and all these qualities that are described in Bhagavad Gita. Because under normal circumstances, it will seem, yeah, I am in control. But as soon as provocation happens, I snap like in no time. Like my ego is right at the top of my nose. I snap and respond harshly. Are Baba, you failed the test. So this is taught in Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3 by Vidura. Now Vidura is a pure devotee and a Mahajan. So I will lay the foundation as to what has happened was. So before the Kurukshetra war, when Krishna came as Shanti Dut and Duryodhan tried to arrest Krishna, and Krishna showed his universal form in the assembly of Dhritarashtra. After Krishna went back, because Duryodhan could not arrest Krishna, Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, then Dhritarashtra was very much disturbed with this event, and he called upon Vidura for advice. So these advice of Vidura are known as are very famous verses. These are there in Canto 3, Chapter 1. And these verses are known as Vidur Niti verses. They are very famous verses in politics. So Vidura was giving advice to Dhritarashtra to throw Duryodhan out of the kingdom because he is having not good intentions against Pandavas, and Pandavas are protected by Krishna, who is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So while while Vidura was speaking these words to Dhritarashtra, at that time Duryodhan walks into the assembly where Vidura is speaking these words. Now we know Duryodhan from chapter 1 that he is a very angry person. He's an Amsha of Kali. So Duryodhan obviously did not like Vidura speaking these words, and Duryodhan chastised Vidura so badly and asked Vidura be thrown out of the kingdom and Vidura not be allowed to take anything except his breathing ability. So upon this incident, Vidura thanked Duryodhan. What? Yeah. Vidura thanked Duryodhan that because of the chastisement of Duryodhan, Vidura was able to get out of the war. So Vidura could observe that Duryodhan is acting under Mahamaya. And if Vidura also got angry on Duryodhan, that would be Vidura also acting under Mahamaya. No. Rather, Vidura acted under Yog Maya, that Vidura thanked Duryodhan. The reason is that because of this chastisement, Vidura could leave the palace and go to pilgrimage. Otherwise, Vidura, who is a pure devotee and a Dharmaraj and a Mahajan, would have had to fight on the side of Adharmi Duryodhan and on the opposite side of Krishna. Now, if you only recognize the first part, that the other person is acting under Mahamaya, which is also very good, it's also a very elevated state, it is good. But if you do not recognize the second part, that how Yog Maya is helping you in this situation, then you are not yet a pure devotee. Therefore, next time when you get a test, when you get a misery, I will describe, I have a lot of heavy talking happening. So all those who are writing questions in the chat, please hold on and unmute and talk to me on this. So when a test will happen, first thing you have to do is to consult with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. We have studied this in chapter 1 onwards, that at initial stages of my spiritual life, I cannot trust my own mind and intelligence because my mind and intelligence are contaminated. Rather, I have to trust Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, and Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra are my intelligence. In Srimad Bhagavatam, we will study in 1.15.27 that Arjuna has also taught us this, that when Arjuna was in distress, because Krishna went back to Goloka Vrindavan, so Arjuna remembered Bhagavad Gita instructions and remembered Krishna's pastimes. Thus Arjuna was pacified, meaning Arjuna is teaching us to take shelter of Bhagavad Gita instructions. But what actually will happen? When a test will happen, test will generally happen with misery or multiple things loaded on top of you, that when this test will happen, because of misery, because of so many things on my plate, we generally tend to forget all scriptural instructions and we tend to act out of our impulse and act out of our contaminated mind and intelligence. And basically we act out of Mahamaya instead of being conscious for ourselves. So when the test has happened, what other devotees have done is that they became angry on Krishna. That why is Krishna doing this to me? Now Krishna is not visible. So they end up getting angry either at me or some other devotee, whosoever is around. Or when I said that you find a buddy, they end up getting angry on the buddy even when the buddy is trying to help. So you all might have heard the Simpsons voice in this television program. No, 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 no. So when a devotee is talking in that Simpson voice to the other devotees or with me, realize that you are in Maya Devi's test. Therefore, the action item for all of you is to immediately find a buddy for yourself. And if you think you are already in a test, you can have an offline chat with me or with the buddy with whom you find comfort. And then you can bring your realizations at the next class. I mean, it could be a challenge to speak your realization, then you can just share with me and I can explain the realization without revealing your name. Now, if Krishna is not in the center, then practice to make Krishna in the center rather than verbalizing that, yeah, Krishna is in center. But when the test happens, you forget everything. Now understand that Maya Devi is giving you this test not to hurt you. Rather, Maya Devi is giving you this test so that you can get out of the bodily concept of life. Now, I'll give you some examples to judge whether you are in Maya's test or not. So one I explained, a couple points I explained, that if you get misery, one after the other, that you become overwhelmed, seek guidance from Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. If you speak to me or other devotees or to your buddy in the Simpsons voice, like, no, 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 no. Pause and recognize you are in Maya's test. If you miss series of classes without a valid reason, recognize you are in Maya's test. So I'm only giving you a few examples. There are infinite ways Maya can test you. So my purpose is that you become very conscious. First, I explain about the qualities as well as become very conscious for the Maya's test. Because this test is mandatory, it is not optional. Every one of us will go through this test. Now, what will happen is, the first time the test will happen, don't get complacent, because the frequency of the test will increase and the severity of the test will increase. I will give you my personal example. The first test of Mayadevi on me was so severe that I actually left the temple. I'm not joking. I actually left the temple. And then senior devotees had to get involved to bring me back on track. So when the senior devotees were trying to get me back on track, they told me, yeah, this Maya Devi's test is normal. Everybody goes through. And my first response to them was that if you knew Maya Devi's test is going to happen, why did you not tell me before? And that's why, that because I went through this test, it was a horrible test. Therefore, I am preparing all of you so that at least you are prepared. Nobody can take the test for you. No, you have to go through the test by yourself. But at least you are prepared for the test. Now I'll give you a practical example from 3 devotees from this batch. The 3 of them are buddies. So I will not name names. I will call them as devotee 1, 2, and 3. So devotee number 1 was going through some misery and was obvious. So the devotee also recognized, yes. And so devotee number 2 and devotee number 3, they became buddies of this devotee number 1 and they were trying to help And in the meantime, they were also having offline chats with me also to help this devotee number 1. Now, when I was having this offline chat with devotee number 2 and 3, I realized that actually devotee number 3 was also in severe Maya Devi's test. And I told this devotee number 3 that, wait a minute, you are also in a test. And I tried to work with this devotee offline. But this devotee number 3's Maya Devi's test was so severe that this devotee number 3 left our classes. And this is also a criteria that if you leave devotee association, you are in a test and you fail the test. So this devotee number 3 has left our classes. Not only that, the devotee stopped responding to my messages and other devotees' messages, and the devotee went to the extreme of changing the phone number altogether. So the defense for Maya's test, the only and the best defense for Maya's test is devotee association. Therefore, form a buddy system for yourself and be very vigilant for yourself, because this test is mandatory. So the devotees, there are multiple devotees going through this test. If somebody is brave enough, virtually present, wants to explain their situation, you are welcome to do it now. It's not mandatory. But if you are brave enough, you can please unmute and speak.
I would just like to add on. I mean, I'm really lucky to be in this session. First of all, I would like to thank you, Prabhuji, and all the devotees present here. Uh, I don't know who is it about, but what I can tell from my personal situation is that lot of times we expect people around us to understand because we think everybody is a devotee and uh we I think we have more expectations from people who are in the spiritual path and somebody is a spiritual guru and
So we discussed humility means we do not expect anything. Right? So from this point on, Shrevanshi, you practice humility. So next time you expect something from some devotee, read chapter 13, 8 to 12 verses, paragraph number 2. Srila Prabhupada says, humility means devotee is not anxious to expect anything. Shrevanshi?
Yeah, I totally agree. But this is a few months back. What I can just say is that of how you mentioned now, I didn't know back then, and I didn't get, I didn't have any expectations, but people reacted the same way what other people usually react.
Yeah, so you understand, recognize that other person is in Mahamaya. So I gave the example of Vidura and Duryodhana. So Vidura recognized that Duryodhana is acting under Mahamaya. I don't have to act under Mahamaya. So Shreyanshi, you are still new. There is discussion in the classes that you have to go through. So when I say buddy system, this is described in Nectar of Instruction, text number 4 at great length, Guhyam Akyati Prachati, to be able to share your mind confidentially with a trusting devotee. So you have to build trust and you have to find a buddy with whom you are trusting, not anybody and everybody. Yeah, everybody is a devotee, but you have to find a trusting devotee.
That is altogether a different story. How to discern people and
Yeah, so it's a trial and error. So there's a discussion in Nectar of Instruction about this. So trial and error, that you start small with a devotee, you build trust, and then you recognize, okay, this is a trusting devotee, and I am now able to share my mind with this devotee. Raksha?
Yes, Prabhuji. I would like to share my test. The first thing that happened with me in this Maya Devi test was it put me in whirlwind of all this materialism, all the material duties, I would say. And my japa was dropping. Like I do certain set of japa rounds,
Very
and
good. Very good.
slowly my japa
what
dropped.
what Raksha is giving is symptoms, live symptoms. So Shruti asked the question, give real life example, and Raksha is explaining real life example that if you are in a whirlpool of material world misery, your quality of japa is down or your count of japa is down. Very good. Continue, Raksha.
Yeah, and things that bring us closer to Krishna are taken away during this test. Like I was not able to attend classes regularly.
Very good. So I explained this part that if you miss series of classes for no reason and you don't even listen to recording, be very careful, you are in Maya's test. So there are few devotees in our class in this situation also that they have missed series of classes for no reason at all. And they haven't even listened to recording. Be very careful, you are in Maya's test. Continue, Raksha.
Yes, Prabhuji. And actually, it traps you in such a way that you feel like you cannot escape out from it.
Yeah.
And it shakes you from within, and it makes you forget Krishna in every possible way.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, very good. So all these are symptoms. So you observe that if you are getting away from devotees, getting away from Krishna, getting away from scriptures, getting away from japa, all your devotional life, and you are getting in a whirlwind of material activities, pause and consult with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So Priya Darshini's question is how to find solution. Solution is Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Continue, Raksha.
Yes, Prabhuji. So it keeps on pulling you back to the material world, and also the nectar, the vibe with which you relish all the Krishna Katha, all these classes, and also while watching Krishna at the temple, the deity worship, it all diminishes and you cannot relish it back.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. So these are all real life symptoms, right? So thank you for sharing. And I always call Raksha as a tigress, that she is brave enough to 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 be able to speak. Very good. Thank you. Abhishek Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Hari. Just a small thing which I noticed. Like sometimes there are tests like which are long, longer, and then sometimes there are some instances like yesterday. Because of some reason, I have to travel back and forth to my home from my college regularly on weekends. So this time my sisters are also here. So generally in college, when I'm with other devotees, it seems that I'm in control. Things are going good. But then when I came to this little unfamiliar environment where there are not uh, like the same association. So yesterday there was some event in my family, and we I had little small fight with my sister. So now, because today you raised this point that um, we if we, like you just mentioned that in difficult situation we see whether we are able to follow or not. So
Yeah.
like, I just wanted to share
Yeah,
what
very good.
happened.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. So when that miserable situation happens, when provocation happens, that's when you test whether you have developed these qualities. So very good. Thank you. I'd like to add here what Abhishek Prabhu pointed out correctly, and I have explained this before also. that when you are, say, many of us are here in North America or whichever country you are in, that when you travel to your home country, and if you are not diligent during those times to hear Bhagavad Gita or read Bhagavad Gita regularly, be very careful, because you are in the middle of materialistic people and you are taking their association, and you don't have any protection. The protection being the scriptural around you or the devotee association around you. You don't have any protection. So either you are traveling to the home country, or family member from the home country is coming to visit you, and you are not careful and you miss series of classes and you don't even listen to class recordings, be very careful. And right now, again, is a very important time to recognize that next week sometime is Diwali festival. So everybody is in bodily concept of life during Diwali festival time or whatever the festival be. So be very careful that somebody say, oh, it's Diwali, I am not going to go to class. Are Baba, where is your respect to Krishna? You have carved out the time for Krishna. Krishna is priority number one. So after our class today, I'm going to send a short lecture titled First Priority is to keep the first priority as the first priority. It's a 7-minute lecture. Many of you in the class have already heard this lecture. And many across multiple batches have heard this lecture like multiple times because they keep wavering. So be very careful when you visit your home country or family visits you and you are not diligent in listening to Bhagavad Gita or attending classes, or say sometimes when somebody is visiting you or you are visiting, you may be in the airplane during that time, you may have to miss. Well, then listen to class recording. We have recordings. As long as you listen, then you are good. Okay, continue. Mansi, Monarch.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So, Prabhu, based on these talks, I feel like every second I am in Mahadevi's test.
Yeah, I already said that.
Yeah.
Test is not one time. The severity of the test will increase and the frequency of the test will increase. I already said that.
Yes, Prabhu.
Right? So don't become complacent that you pass the first test or you fail the first test. Don't become complacent at all. Continue.
Yes, Prabhu. So, how to be calm? Like,
Yeah.
I think I should explain it by some example. Let's say in this month I took a vow to not become angry, but every day I am breaking that vow.
Yeah.
So
So
basically,
where's the practice? Right? So every time you become angry, I want you to first read Bhagavad Gita chapter 16, verse number 21. Read right now, Mansi.
Yes, Prabhu.
16.21.
Yes. 16.21. There are three gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give this up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul.
Do you want to go to hell?
No, Prabhu.
Right? So every time something snaps you, before you snap back, pause and read 16.21.
Yes,
So
Prabhu.
we will discuss this in very soon in chapter 14, that we have to take shelter of Krishna as well as Krishna's words. So read 16.21. Now about anger, every one of us have to find our trigger point, which could be different for all of us. That what is my trigger point? So you can start making a note for yourself, or you can visualize your history, that what caused you to become angry. Find your trigger, and it can take some time to find your trigger. And once you find your trigger, it becomes easier for you to be able to control yourself, not to snap. The second point, when you get provoked. So we discussed that when you get provoked, that's when you have to test these qualities, not under normal circumstances. So also read these chapter 13, 8 to 12 verses. No, I have to develop these qualities. I don't have to act under Mahamaya like the other person. Otherwise, what's the difference between you and them? Well, actually, you are worse than the other person. The other person might have not read scriptures, and he's okay to act under Mahamaya. He doesn't know anything else. But you have read scriptures. And if you are not following, well, you are worse than the other person. And one important point I will tell you, that anger is very difficult to control. So what you do is that you will have a very strong urge to write back. Tack, 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 tack. Well, don't hit send. I will give you my personal example about anger. So I found my trigger point through practice. I found my trigger point, and one time at my workplace, for one particular project, I became so angry that I immediately sat down on my computer and I was typing a very strongly worded email. I was literally typing 2 cubicles down. My colleague could hear my typing. I was that angry. But as I was typing, I recognized my trigger. I said, wait a minute, this is my trigger. So I continued writing the email. I just did not hit send. I saved the email in draft and I said, you know what? I have found my trigger. I became angry. I just did not express it, but although I expressed it in the email, but I did not hit send. Next day, and I said, I will look at this next day. Next day, the first thing I did was I opened that email and I was in shock myself. How could I have written this email? If I had sent that email, I would have been in big trouble because my email was very strongly worded. So I deleted that email. So these are some points I can tell you that don't hit send, get help from Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, find your trigger point, read 16.21, and if possible, chant 1 round of japa. Mansi?
Yes, Prabhu, that will definitely gonna help me. Thank you so much for a wonderful explanation. Thank you so much.
All right, I will pause here for questions, comments, realizations. Shreyanshi, you had some question earlier.
Yeah, now I want to add on, like, I agree, like how you said everything, but sometimes I feel like you have to get out of situations, places, and people because sometimes they're not just meant for you.
Yeah, you are correct. That is also for anger. That is also a valid solution. That get away from that place and come back to that situation in a calm circumstances.
I have two point of view. First, like what we are mentioning, like to have control and to not give away your reaction. And second, like if they're not meant for you, then even though you try, you you want to move heavens and all, it won't work out in any case. Like those
Yeah.
people will never fit
Expectation.
into.
No, expectation. Lower your expectation.
Okay.
All right. Questions, comments, realizations, or if you feel overwhelmed, or if you feel you want to have an offline chat with me, by all means, have a chat. And whether or not you feel overwhelmed or whether or not you have, I request all of you to have an offline chat with me about this Mahadevi's test, because this is mandatory test. Many devotees across all batches have gone through this test. Some have failed the test. Many devotees in this batch are going through the test. Some don't even recognize. If anybody else has to share, wants to share something, you are welcome to share. Abhishek Prabhu.
Well, in this test situation, is it okay to understand that if we are continuing in devotee association, then it is fine? Um, the question, because I'm asking that in the sense that uh, we may have problems in different spheres, and it may not be that we may be discussing each of the problem with the same person. There
Yeah,
will be
so
different.
devotee association is the solution, and you have to, depending on your circumstances, you have to judge whether you are able to speak to a particular devotee about your situation or not. Whether you have a trusting relationship with that devotee, you have to judge for yourself.
Mm.
Rest of you, anybody wants to share their personal experience about Mahadevi's
Hare Krishna.
test? Abhishek Prabhu, you want to say something?
Sorry, I just lost your voice. I'll get the recording.
Diksha?
Yes, Prabhuji, I would like to share my experience, which just happened yesterday itself. There was my old friend, like who
So,
mocked me.
so you can stay out of the specific details, just talk at high level.
Okay, so there was somebody who tried like provoking me yesterday, and then um, before I wanted to react to that person, I wrote a message to Prabhuji, but I couldn't like hold myself. I couldn't wait on like Prabhuji's message to like come back. And before that, only like I happened to snap back at the person. But during the process, I read Prabhuji's message and I realized that I was going through Maya's test and how I was miserably failing. And then Prabhuji made me read 16.21 during the conversation, and I realized how I should not be angry, else I would be going to hell. And then how I should be, practicing compassion over people who are under lower moods. But I was acting the same way they were acting. And
Yeah.
then also,
So the solution that
yeah,
when somebody is provoking you, you use Shastra Chakshu. So when this provocation happens, use this as an opportunity to practice Shastra Chakshu. Basically, by Shastra Chakshu means you try to find a verse relevant in Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam, and I have explained to all of you how to use Bhagavad Gita index to look up verses. So at initial stages, you may need some guidance. So you can either call me or message me or your buddy that what is the relevant verse. And by looking up the verse, you are taking shelter of Krishna's words. So that's a solution also. Continue, Diksha.
yes. And then Prabhuji also mentioned that a Krishna devotee should be speaking pleasing words over truthful words. And then
Yeah.
I realized that while I was
Very important, right? So when you are conversing with somebody, so this is 17.15, this is known as austerity of speech. Krishna says pleasing speech is higher than truthful speech. So if you also snap back at somebody, well, they are not gonna like it. How is your speech pleasing? You are not following Krishna's instructions. So what's the point of you studying? Where's the transformation for you? Continue, Diksha.
Yes, and then Prabhuji made me realize that this is Maya's test and how test is important to actually, you know, like for our own evaluation, how important it is for test to come, so that we realize how much we are progressing in bhakti. And I realized that I'm nowhere down the line that way. It
Very
was a
good.
very
So very good. Thank you, Diksha, for sharing your personal. So both Raksha and Diksha are sisters, and both of them are tigresses to be able to share so much personal detail. So what I mentioned to Diksha is that don't get disheartened. That use this as an opportunity. That okay, this is the test. I failed the first test. Okay, but now I know what I have to do. Previously, I did not know what to do, but now I know. So at least on a go forward basis, I will rectify myself. So Maya Devi is giving you test not to hurt you. Rather, Maya Devi is giving a test to you so that you can develop these qualities that we are discussing in Bhagavad Gita. Everybody on the same page? Questions?
I would like to add on to this. No matter how much we study and how much we know about what should be done in a particular situation, Prabhuji, but when it comes to putting that into real practice, it actually takes a lot of humility. It's very difficult to put it in practice.
Yeah,
I've realized.
so you are correct. So just as a child is learning to walk, he will find it very difficult to walk. He'll say, I keep falling. And if the child says, well, now I will not walk because I keep falling, well, then the child will never be able to walk. But the child keeps going on. So yes, initially these qualities will be very difficult to follow. But once you cross the first hurdle, then it will become second nature and it will become very easy. Abhishek Prabhu has a question.
Hi, Krishna. On this point of seeing the qualities, like in NOI also many qualities are discussed in verse 1.
Yeah.
So I just want to understand that because we have this conditioned nature, our seeing may not be very, observations may not be very correct. So this is some kind
Yeah,
of
so Shastra
dilemma.
Chakshu, very good, correct point. So Parth Prabhu has also asked this question in the Bhagavatam class that I think you were present or maybe you will listen to recording, the last question answer session, that he asked about the mind and I gave Shastra Chakshu, right? So whatever we see in the material world, whatever we hear in the material world, don't use your contaminated mind and senses because they are contaminated. Exactly what Abhishek Prabhu is saying. Rather, use Shastra Chakshu. That whatever the spiritual master is saying, you say, how do I correlate his behavior, his words to which scripture? That way, your contamination doesn't come into play. Abhishek Prabhu?
In NOI discussion, the first point was that we have to observe who is qualified to be a spiritual master. That's why those qualities are mentioned.
Correct.
And that itself we can't do if we ourselves are not
So you are
qualified to
correct.
see.
No. So you are correct, but the qualities are general in nature. Whether somebody has anger control as one of the quality in Nectar of Instruction, text number 1, right? So Krodha Vekam is very obvious that somebody is provoking. Say when you listen to Prabhupada lecture, some people ask provoking questions. But Prabhupada is responding in a normal way. Well, that's a very obvious to judge that although there was a provocation, Prabhupada did not provoke, did not get affected by the provocation. So it is possible to observe those qualities. Those qualities are not something hidden. they demonstrate those qualities. Therefore, use Shastra Chakshu. Rather than your contaminated mind and senses, use Shastra Chakshu.
So I can say that at a basic level, we can try to see this. Maybe we'll not be able to understand the finer aspects, like let's say Prabhupada also gets angry sometimes, for example. And so, but in a general sense, we can see and then correlate with Shastra. Is it okay?
Yeah, you are correct. Yeah, try Shastra Chakshu. Shastra Chakshu is very important. And the chapter 14 discussion coming up very, very soon in next couple of classes on how to observe the modes is going to be an eye opener of a discussion. Some of you have already heard the chapter 14 classes ahead of time. It is going to be an eye opener of a discussion that we are controlled by the modes 24 hours, but we don't know how to see the modes. And soon after the chapter 14 discussion, you'll also be able to see the modes, that how other people are puppets in the hands of the modes. Well, I don't want to be the puppet in the hands of the modes, and we will discuss the practical aspect of how to see the modes and how to be not controlled by the mode. So we'll discuss those points. So those discussions, Shastra Chakshu plus the ability to see the modes and a lot of practical points that I described, that should help you stay vigilant for yourself as and when the Maya Devi's test happens. It may already be happening. You might just not know it. I mean, I don't know all of you at a personal level, right? You are only conversing with me 2 hours in this class and couple of messages. Messages don't really tell me about your personal situation. I don't know you that much. So you have to judge for yourself and connect with me if required. Questions, comments, realizations? Again, my whole intent is not to scare you. My whole intent is to prepare you for this mandatory Maya Devi's test. I already explained many devotees across all batches have gone through this Maya's test. Many have passed. Some have failed who have left devotee association. So observe yourself. I gave some pointers. Raksha also shared some pointers. Couple of you also shared. I will quickly summarize that if you are talking with me or with other devotees in Simpson's voice, da 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 da, you are in Maya's test. If you miss series of classes without any reason and you don't even listen to class recordings, you are in Maya Devi's test. When you visit your home country or your family visits you, or now during Diwali time, if you are not diligent in listening and reading Bhagavad Gita, be very careful because you are taking materialistic association and you are not having the protection of Bhagavad Gita around you and devotee around you. Be very careful. You will be in Maya Devi's test. If you lose your taste of devotee association, taste of japa, or taste of relishing Krishna's darshan, or you don't feel like coming to class, or you don't feel like doing devotional services, all these are symptoms that you should be cautious for yourself. That, wait a minute, I already have these symptoms. I am in Maya's test. So immediately connect with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Now, Guru is far away. Sadhu refers to a devotee. So find a buddy, make a buddy. Now, normally, if you are in a test, you will not recognize that you are in a test. The buddy has to recognize for you. So the buddy's role is to guide you, and your role is to listen to the buddy. I have told you that devotees from previous batches who have been in Maya Devi's test, you will be surprised what the devotee's response has been. So we know this devotee from many, many years, and the devotees from the class are connecting with this devotee who is in test. And this devotee who is in Mahadevi's test, this devotee is responding, "Who are you? Why are you calling me?" Arey Baba, we are trying to help you. So you all prepare yourself that you don't behave like this devotee. So this particular devotee who responded like this, we still tried to help this devotee. Then later this devotee recognized, and this devotee could not stop crying that how was this devotee saying, "Who are you? Why are you calling me?" Why? Because Maya Devi messes up your priorities. So I'm going to send a 7-minute short lecture after our class today. That first priority is to keep the first priority as the first priority. What Maya Devi does is that Krishna becomes your priority number 2, then priority number 3, then priority number 10, then Krishna becomes priority number infinity, and Krishna is no longer your priority. This is the role of Maya Devi. So if you recognize Maya Devi, then you will chuckle at Maya Devi. Hey, Maya Devi, Hare Krishna. I see you have come forward testing me. Don't test me. Please sit beside me and also make me a devotee like you. So, Abhishek Prabhu talking about Simpson voice. Basically, what I'm saying is that you are not talking in a normal voice, but you are talking in a little agitated voice. That's the point I'm trying to make. Abhishek Prabhu?
Thank you, Prabhu.
All right, let's read one more paragraph. We had a very heavy discussion, I'm hoping. Let's read chapter 13, verses 8 to 12, paragraph number 1. Let's see who wants to read. Who wants to read quickly?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Okay,
Should I read?
yeah, Path Prabhu, go ahead. You read. Read louder. There's very important paragraph as well.
Text 8 to 12, purport, the first paragraph. The process of knowledge is sometimes misunderstood by less intelligent men as being the interaction of the field of activity. But actually, this is the real process of knowledge. If one accepts the process, then the possibility of approaching the absolute truth exists. This is not the interaction of the 24 elements as described before. This is actually the means of get out of the entanglement of those elements. The embodied soul is entrapped by the body, which is a casing made of the 24 elements, and the process of knowledge as described here is the means to get out of it. Of all the descriptions of the process of knowledge, the most important point is described in the first line of the 11th verse. Mai kanaya yogena bhakti abhayabhi karini. The process of knowledge terminates in unalloyed devotional service to the Lord. So if one does not approach or is not able to approach the transcendental service of the Lord, then the other 19 items are of no particular value. But if one takes to devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, the other 19 items automatically develop within him. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, all the good qualities of the knowledge develop in one who has attained the stage of devotional service. The principle of accepting a spiritual master as mentioned in the 8th verse is essential. Even for one who takes to devotional service, it is most important. Transcendental life begins when one accepts a bona fide spiritual master. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, clearly states here that this process of knowledge is the actual path. Anything speculated beyond this is nonsense. Hare Krishna.
All right. So Prabhupada is making an important point. Prabhupada says, this process of knowledge is misunderstood by less intelligent people as being the interaction of the field of activity. So we discussed in chapter 13, verse 7, about the verse 6 and 7, we discussed the interactions of the field and the emotions, everything. And Prabhupada says these 20 items, people think that these are the interactions of the field of activity. No, that is not correct. Some people think of these qualities as Kshetra Vikar. No, Kshetra Vikar we discussed in chapter 13, verse 6 and 7. No, those are different. Those are Ichcha and Dvesha. Right? But these are qualities that we have to develop. But like Prabhupada says, these qualities are Kshetra Vimukti, means if one wants to get liberated from the Kshetra, then these processes are required, means these qualities are required. Therefore, these are a real process of knowledge. And Prabhupada says this is actually the means to get out of entanglement of the 24 elements of body. And Prabhupada also makes an important point that of all the descriptions of the process of knowledge, means these 20 items, the most important point is that in 13.11, the first line verse, that the process of knowledge should terminate in unalloyed devotional service to Krishna. So, although we are in the Jnana section of Bhagavad Gita from chapter 13 onwards, still within the Jnana section, one element is still Bhakti. So, even the Jnanis have to practice Bhakti at some level. Only after Bhakti is when Jnanis get elevated to the highest realizations. On Yoga Letter, we have discussed this at great length. Bhakti has to be there in all processes. So we are just past 10:30 p.m. Toronto time. Any last questions, comments, realizations? All right. So read the purports. I mean, we so far we have only covered 2 paragraphs from this 8 to 12 verse of chapter 13. The purport of this 5 verses is very long and spectacular also. So we'll cover all these verses in our next class, and many of them will be eye-opener. So I won't cover anything more today. I will post important lectures in the chat. Please listen and bring your realizations next time. Are we okay to stop here? Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna Prabhuji, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.